So a little bit about Design Lab before we get started. I just wanted to share a little bit about who we are. Obviously, we're hosting this talk in conjunction with Colin and Visual Electric. We're going to chat more about who Colin is and more about Visual Electric as we're going through the presentation. But in terms of Design Lab, I know that some of you may be new, so I just wanted to share a few words with you about us. So we are an online educational platform, and we focus exclusively on digital design. Our education model combines online project-based learning with expert mentorship. It's something that we've been doing in this online digital space for upwards of a decade. Over 20,000 students have taken our classes, and we have programs for those who are transitioning into design careers, are designers that have been working in UX, UI for quite some time and are looking to upskill. And we also have programming for design teams, team trainings, and folks who are totally new to design and maybe aren't looking to make a career change, but just want to learn some skills as well. So for those of you who are attending this talk today, we are offering all attendees of today's events a $100 off discount code, which can be applied to any of our courses, whether that is a beginner level course or an advanced course. All you need to do is enter the code on the screen at checkout, and it'll automatically be applied to the course of your selection. And I'm also going to drop a link into the chat with the coupon automatically attached, just in case anyone would like to go ahead and check that out. Right there. Hi, Catriona. So nice to meet you. Greetings from New Jersey. That's where I am today. So you're all the way across on the other side of the states. Cool. And really quickly, I'm just going to share our Design Lab email, which is admissions@designlab.com, in case anybody would like to get in touch. Awesome. So without further ado, I am going to get into the event. So welcome, Colin Dunn. Colin Dunn is the co-founder and CEO of Visual Electric, the first image generator built specifically for designers. Before starting Visual Electric, Colin led design at Universe and PlaySpace, and prior to that was a product designer at Dropbox and Facebook, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. So the way that the event is going to work today is we will start by having a Q&A with Colin for about 15-20 minutes. He's going to give us an awesome demo of some of the things that you can do with Visual Electric, and then we'll have a little bit of a wrap up at the end. Awesome. So to start out, Colin, perhaps you can elaborate a little bit more on what you mean when you say Visual Electric is an image generator made specifically for designers. In what ways has this tool been created with designers specifically in mind?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and show you guys Visual Electric and answer any questions that you have. But yeah, I mean, I'm a designer, so I think when we were thinking about building a product, it's always fun to think about building something for yourself. And when image generation technology came out, me and my co-founders were very excited about it, and we started playing around with it and noticed that the tools were not very friendly for the designer workflow or the creative process generally. It was a really amazing demonstration of technology, but it was all inside of Discord bots and products that felt more like tech demos than really thoughtfully designed user interfaces. And so we went about trying to build the product that we wanted for ourselves. And so the first thing we did is we decided that we wanted to put the image this technology into an infinite canvas. You know, a lot of the existing products in the space were using a chat interface, which felt like a really great interface for large language models, but for working in a visual medium like Imagery, it felt like this technology really wanted to be on a canvas where you could work in kind of a non-linear way and spread out and bring in reference images to have next to the images that you're generating. And then once we put things on an infinite canvas, it opened up a bunch of new ways of working that really only made sense in that format. So we created workflows like collaging, which allows you to layer images over the top of one another and then use that to generate an image, as well as things like retouch. So we really were trying to create a visual workflow and visual interface for working with this technology.
Very cool. I mean, that's really impressive that you saw like a need for something and wanted to expand that, you know, very specifically into a way that would work in the design space. That's awesome. So in another interview that I saw on YouTube, you highlighted the importance of, you know, when starting a business or creating a product, of solving the right problem. How did you first identify the problem Visual Electric is trying to solve, and why do you feel it's the right problem to solve?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think when you're a founder, you're constantly asking yourself, especially when you're in the early stages. I think of starting a company as a little bit like wandering through a forest in the dark. Like you're trying to find your way and find the right path. So um, I think in our case, we were really excited about the technology, and we felt strongly that there was an opportunity to build a new kind of company in this space. But the exact form that that was going to take was very unclear. And so, in the beginning, we started by kind of taking a first principles approach to asking ourselves what type of creative work is going to be disrupted by this technology, and we started very broad. I mean, we were thinking about things like video and music and 3D and game design, and we didn't really hone in on graphic design and imagery until we had sort of gone through a longer process. And the reason we decided to focus on this area is because, one, it seemed clear that there was a large market here. Like there's already a number of large companies in this space. And the second is that we felt like the models and the technology were improving really rapidly. Like image generation technology specifically seemed like it was getting to a level of maturity, uh, really quickly. So from like a technical and business perspective, it seemed like a good opportunity. And then the third reason was it was just an area that we were passionate about and excited about. And I think that's really important when you're starting a company, is that you need to have a lot of enthusiasm for what you're working on, because it's going to take a long time and it's going to be really hard. And if you don't have that motivation, I think you're gonna burn out. So um, those were sort of the reasons that led us to starting a company in the space. And we're constantly evaluating, are we solving the right problem? Are we focused enough? I think that's another problem startups have often, is they're not focused enough. And it's really like a daily practice, I think, to be answering those questions.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes a lot of discipline and passion and awareness to be able to successfully, create a product and a company and, really see it successfully come to fruition for sure. Cool. So once you identified, the problem or the opportunity, can you speak a little bit to actually making the jump from working for someone else to, being an entrepreneur? How was the process for you? Like, were you working part-time on Visual Electric for a long time? Did you have this idea and just go for it and start your own company? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I have wanted to start a company for a really long time, and I've had a lot of really bad startup ideas, which I'm happy to share. But um, I I've been thinking about starting, different kinds of companies, and I've sort of explored different ideas to different levels of development. And one person who I have built a relationship who's been really helpful for me is an investor named Greg Rosen, and he is a pre-seed investor. And so he specifically invests in companies that are at the earliest stage of formation. And so often it's pre-idea, co-founders. You may just be one person that has a sort of direction that you're interested in. And he's been an amazing thought partner for me, because he could sort of push on my ideas and really help me filter out the ideas that were worth pursuing or not. And so I have known him for over 10 years at this point, and he has given me a lot of feedback on different ideas. And I think when I brought him this idea and we started working on it together, he was really excited about it from a business perspective. I think he saw the opportunity there to create a new kind of creative tool, and he also knew that I was uniquely positioned, I think, to be able to build that kind of company, given my background. So he was the person who really um, helped me go from wanting to start a company to actually building a company. He put in the first check into Visual Electric, and that was enough to help me, quit my job and start paying myself a salary so that I could work on this full time. So I give him a lot of credit. But I don't think that's the only path. I think the other path you mentioned of, working on it nights and weekends and getting it to a point where you can raise money from a prototype or something like that is another very common path.
Cool. I mean, that's amazing that you had someone that believed in your vision and your product and thought you were the right person to do it, and was able to, give you that support. That's fantastic. Seems like it's gone really well for you too, which is amazing.
Yeah,
So
I
in that
mean, it's
same, oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's I mean, I'm glad it seemed that way from the outside. I think as a founder, it always feels like an uphill battle, and every day is very challenging. But I'm glad it has that perception of going well.
So in that same interview, you mentioned how the design process at Visual Electric has involved rapid iteration, constant user feedback. Could you share an example where user insights really significantly altered the direction of a product like development or feature?
Absolutely, yeah. We've taken a very iterative approach to our product development process, and one specific thing that we've done is we've used a service called userinterviews.com, which has been a really valuable way to get our product or get a prototype in front of real customers and be able to sit down and talk with them and do qualitative research as well. And so we have done a lot of work around um, making image generation technology easy for people to use. I think that's one of the sort of biggest hurdles of adopting this technology is clearly very powerful, but nobody really wants to become a prompt engineer. Nobody wants to have to spend the time to learn all the little words or phrases. Not to mention just building a mental model around how does this technology work and how do I get the best results from it. And so um, a lot of the work we've been doing is trying to build the right user interface that sits on top of this technology uh, that allows people to leverage it to execute the vision that they have in their head. And that's really our goal and our mission, is to sort of enable anybody to bring their vision to life and not necessarily be an expert in machine learning technology, but they can use our interface and they can use our product to sort of bring that vision to life. So some specific examples. I mean, there's so many, as we call them, knobs and dials that you can adjust when you're generating images. And there's something called temperature, which is how much variance you get when you generate a set of images with the prompt. There's something called a seed, which is you can generate sort of an infinite number of versions of the same prompt, and so each seed is sort of a different version of that image. There's something called a scheduler, which is a mathematical formula that you actually use to at inference time that does affect the quality of the image. So different styles actually use different schedulers in our product. But all of these things are basically technical implementation details that we don't think our users really want to think about or care about when they're being creative and when they're working in our product. So we've been trying to figure out what are the right ways to expose these very powerful controls to users, but do it in a way that feels intuitive. And so one example of that is the creativity slider. And this slider shows up in a few different places in the product. And it does different things actually at in different places, but we present it as sort of one UI element, and we've tested it extensively. And I think what we've realized is that while people don't necessarily understand exactly what's happening under the hood when they're changing that value, it does work the way they expect it to work. It does have it does give them the ability to control the model and to collaborate with the model in an effective way. So um, it may seem very simple in its implementation, but there's a lot of iteration and even understanding, so what is 70% creativity? What do people expect 70% creativity to do? That's a very ambiguous question. And so all of that has been the result of a lot of iteration and a lot of um, user feedback.
Awesome. That's really cool. And, as someone having used a lot of the sort of AI gen tools on the market, I definitely empathize with what you're talking about. There can often be complicated and a bit convoluted or intimidating to use. So it's great to hear that creators are considering how to make these products more intuitive for the folks that are using them. Absolutely. So as a founder with, a deep design background, what were some of the unique challenges that you personally faced in transitioning from being a product designer at, big name companies to leading a more design focused startup? And what are the big lessons that you take from your work experience previously that you're now using at Visual Electric?
Yeah, I think when you are a product designer at a large company, your job is to kind of represent design, represent user experience, fight for the customer, and you're doing so, I think, with the understanding that there's other functions and there's other roles that are advocating for different aspects of the business, for engineering, feasibility. But when you become a founder, there, I think that you take on a lot more of that responsibility yourself, and so you're not necessarily just optimizing for one dimension, which is design or user experience. You have to think about what is the business model that we're creating? What is the sort of cost of investing in these, delight and sort of user experience niceties that I think designers love? And so I've had to, I think, recalibrate my own sort of idea of what is the most important thing that we should be working on at any given time. I would say that I'm wearing my designer hat maybe 15% of the time, and 85% of the time I'm doing something else, whether it's customer support or user testing or copywriting or marketing or social media. So there's so many other roles that I think you have to play, and uh, I would say that if you're the type of person who just wants to be doing design all the time, then being a founder is probably not uh, the right role, unless you can find a co-founder who can sort of take on the other responsibilities. But for me, like, I really think about building a company as a design problem. It's about expanding the sort of aperture of design to think about not just a user interface, but to think about the whole experience of both an employee who works at this company as well as users who come, through the various channels that we have, all the way through the customer support, sort of an end-to-end life cycle. So for me, that has always been really exciting to sort of think about that at a high level. But it is quite a bit different than what you do as a designer at a large company.
Yeah, I'm sure I mean, as you said, it requires a real holistic outlook. And I think the ability to be able to wear a lot of hats and, probably change gears a lot throughout your day and perform a lot of different functions. So yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'd love for us to now move into the demo and see a little bit more, about what you're chatting about with Visual Electric. So I am going to basically hand over to you. I'm going to shut off my camera and mic. You can go ahead and share your screen. But I do just want to remind everyone in the chat that if you would like to post any questions for the Q&A at the end, you're definitely more than welcome to share at any time.
Perfect. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so once you log in to Visual Electric, this is what you will see. It's a inspiration gallery, and these are images that were generated by members of our community. So we will, occasionally come in and promote images to the inspiration gallery so that other people can see them. You can click on an image to see the prompt that was used to make it, as well as other information like the aspect ratio, as well as other features if the image was using them. From here, you can add this image to a new canvas if you'd like, or you can copy a link or download it. I'll show you a few other things before we jump into a canvas. You can also see all of the images that you have created. So this is a sort of timeline view of every image that you've generated. And then up in the top corner is a workspace switcher. So you, by default, will be given a personal workspace, and everything created in here is private to you, but you can also create a shared workspace for your team, which is really helpful if you're collaborating with other people. So I'm going to create a new canvas here. When you create a new canvas, you'll be dropped into our editor. And if you've ever used Figma or Sketch or any other infinite canvas product, it should feel pretty familiar to you. On the left, you have the inspiration gallery. These are the same images that we were just looking at. You can click on them to add them to your canvas, and then you can see the same prompt information over here that was used to make it. as well as a set of tools, which I'll go over in a second. And like I was saying before, we felt like chat was just the wrong interface for working with images. We wanted a canvas that supported the sort of non-linear nature of creativity and allowed us to bring in inspiration images and have them sort of next to our images that we were creating. So I'm going to show you a few different things that you can do in here. So the first thing is you'll notice at the top there is the composer, and this is where you can generate new images from a prompt. So I'll type in a prompt here, a simple window reflecting a peaceful garden. And you'll notice that as I start typing, we give you suggestions here. And these suggestions are not things that other users have typed in. This is actually a model that we've trained on what we understand to be a good prompt. A good prompt is, at its minimum, a subject and a location. And so if you type in a subject, it will offer you locations and vice versa. And then once you have the sort of minimum of a good prompt, we'll give you additional suggestions for creative things that you can add to the prompt. At the bottom, we have a color picker. This lets you define a color palette for your image. Exclude tells the model what you don't want to include. So sometimes people will say things like, no red. And the problem with that is when you include the word red, the model's actually now more likely to generate images that have red in them. So if you don't want to have something in your prompt, it's better to put, say, red in here, and then that will steer the model away from that. We also have our style library, which is, we have 55 styles that we've created by hand. Each one of these is sort of a project unto itself. And the goal is to make it very easy to generate images that have a consistent look and don't require a bunch of prompt engineering. So you have a bunch of featured styles that we've picked, as well as these different categories. So photography, fine art, illustration, crafts, and digital. I'm going to do a hand-drawn style for this one. And then the last option here is the aspect ratio. I'm going to do square, and then you can also choose to do the highest quality or the fastest speed. I'm going to keep it at the highest quality. So once you start generating images, they'll just be added to the canvas. And if you select an image, you get the right-hand sidebar, which I'll show you how that works in a second. I'm going to actually generate a few different style of images just so you can see the range here. So I'm going to do flat design, portrait 400. And so with the same prompt, it's really easy to generate very different looking images just by picking a different style. Watercolor. This is the Portrait 400, which is it's a film stock that is very popular among photographers. So you can see it has sort of a analog film quality to it. So yeah, I think this is one of the most fun parts about the product, is just to play with the different styles. And I encourage you all to spend some time doing that. I'll also show you, I think our model is very good at generating realistic photography. And this is one of our primary use cases for the product. It's a really great way to replace stock photography and to not use sort of the same images that everybody is using. You can create exactly what you want, and you can have it be on brand and consistent. So this is a prompt that I was really liking. I'm going to try photography style, and I'm going to do landscape. And we have a whole section of photography. The difference between these different styles is subtle, but it's worth experimenting with. We have an airy style, which is a brighter, kind of more maybe Instagram-y style. You could say this is more like a fashion photography, like Vogue style imagery. Photography is kind of like it's like a classic sort of digital DSLR style photography. Um, yeah, these are really fun to play with. I'm also going to show you how you can work with found imagery. So this is a style of imagery that's become popular. I think it started with the Intercom website. Um, if you take a screenshot or if you have any found images, you can easily bring them into Visual Electric by just dragging them and dropping them on your canvas. And then you click on the Generate Prompt button. And what this is doing is it's sending this image through a vision model, and it's coming up with a prompt that describes that image. And so you can see the prompt is here. I'm going to click Remix, and I'm going to make a couple edits here. So I don't want any text in my image. Doesn't look like there is any actually. So yeah, I'm going to try generating this in a, so I'm going to do a gouache painting, which I think would look really nice. And I'm going to do a widescreen. And so just to be clear, we're not actually using this image in to create this in any way. All we're doing is we're creating a prompt from this image, and it's creating something from the foundation model, and it's doing, making it entirely new. You can also try oil painting, see if that gets us closer to what we want. But I think it captured the style pretty well. So that's one way you can work with found imagery. Another way is to find things on Google Images. So I found this sort of old sign painting that I liked. I'm going to save this. So I'm going to copy it. Paste it, and then I'm going to use the same process to generate a prompt. And one of the things that our model does really well is generates text, accurate text. So I'm going to hit the remix button on this and change this to say, Visual Electric Company. See if there's any other changes I want to make. I'm going to use Portrait 400, and I'm going to do landscape. And so again, we're not using this image in any way to create this new set of images. All we've done here is describe this image in language, and then we're using that description to prompt the base model to create something new. Now, with a image that has this much text in it, it does take a few tries to get everything to work correctly, but you can see here it's doing a pretty good job. I mean, this actually, except for the P here, looks like this is spelled correctly. So this is a really fun thing to do, and I've created a lot of these sort of old signs for different companies and shared them on Twitter. Okay, another use case that I wanted to show was creating mockups. So this is another really great use of Visual Electric. And I'm going to use a found image here as a starting point. So I'm going to take a screenshot and drag this onto my canvas. And again, I'm going to use the Generate Prompt button here. So I want to create a blank template that I can use for generating a mockup of a smartphone. So I'm going to hit remix on this, and I'm going to make some changes here. Remove that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And let's see how this comes out. Let's try portrait again. You can tell that that's one of my favorite styles. Let's also do just regular photography as well. So I think this sort of shows why we love the canvas. It really lets you kind of spread out, have everything side by side. You see this, there's like this really nice history of everything that you worked on. And it just feels very familiar if you're a designer and you worked in tools like this. Okay, this looks pretty good. I like how this is looking. I'm going to bring this image down here, and I'm going to show you how this art director tool works. So this lets you tell the model what you would like to change about an image, and it will rewrite the prompt and then generate new images for you. So I can say here, make the a transparent sheet of glass. And so what we're doing here behind the scenes is we actually are looking at the original prompt. So in this case here, we are taking the instruction that you've given, and then we're generating a new prompt that uses that instruction. So in the future, we would actually like to modify this image specifically, but for now, we're just rewriting the prompt for you. I can say, make the glass frosted. And this way of working is just very natural and allows you to think more like an art director would, and just tell the model what you would like to change about an image. And then it does sort of the work of actually figuring out how to pull that off. So that's just sort of one example, but it's a really fun way to work, and it's become one of my favorite ways to sort of use this tool. Okay, I'll show you a couple more things. This is a photograph from my friend. He asked me if I could turn this image into a isometric style, like 3D rendering, which is this style of image, which I'm sure you all have seen. And so, again, I'm going to use the generate prompt button, and it's going to sort of describe the scene as best as it can. And then I'm going to add the isometric style to this image. And I'm going to do, yeah, I think landscape makes sense. So we don't yet have the ability to train models on specific images. That's something that we're working on. But for now, with just a text prompt, you can actually get pretty good result. So you can see here it definitely got some of the details right, but it doesn't have sort of L-shaped desk. So I'm going to come in here and say the desks are and let's see if that gets us closer. So I think with image generation, it's really all about iteration and exploration and trial and error. So yeah, I didn't quite get it, but you can see how you would sort of need to keep working on it and try explaining things in different ways. But it does do a really good job of listening to the prompt. Our prompt adherence is, I think, one of the best of any image generator. And so you'll find that if you start to say ask for very specific things, it will listen to that, and it can deliver on that pretty effectively. Okay, I want to show you how to create custom styles as well. So this is an image that one of our users created that I thought was really cool. And I wanted to create a custom style from this image. One of the, I think, uses for custom styles is that you can create icon sets for marketing sites or for products. So you can imagine that you would want to have a sort of different set of icons using the same style. So I'm going to go in here and click on the plus button. I'm going to call this metallic Play-Doh. Whoops, I don't know why I copied all of that. Delete that. So the way that this works is you can include information here for the style. So it shouldn't include any subject information. So you want to remove all of that. So isometric view, silver metallic Play-Doh of and then you can use this token to basically tell the model where you want the user prompt to go. And yeah, all of this is about the key. So I'm going to remove that. And then over here, you can include some example prompts. So you can say, for example, a key, lock, airplane, and mobile phone. And now if I hit preview, so what it's doing is it's taking this user prompt and it's inserting it where I put this token here, and then it's including the rest of these words in my prompt. And so you can see it's done a pretty good job of creating this sort of consistent isometric style. So now I can say done. And now if I open up my styles, you can see I have that style here, and I can now use it to generate new images. So again, this is a really great way to come up with a brand style and then use Visual Electric to create consistent icon sets in that style. And we've seen a lot of people doing this for marketing assets or in-product icon sets. Yeah, so that's all I had prepared for today, but happy to answer any other questions.
I just want to say that, I mean, the tool is really, really amazing. I have a background, in photography, and obviously I play around with image gen a lot because I'm in marketing at Design Lab. And I mean, the prompting is amazing, but the realism of the photography is really, really impressive.
I know it's become hard to tell the difference between AI images and non-AI images. So
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really cool, and the way that you went through the demo, you really get a great understanding of how the tool works. But it seems like it's very accessible, which I know that you've stated previously that that's how you wanted it to feel. But in watching you work with it, that's definitely the way that it feels, I think, in its application. So that's awesome. Really, really
very,
cool.
very cool. Yeah, I'm glad it felt that way. I mean, I think any designer knows that simplicity is really the result of tireless iteration, and we've been working really hard on making it feel easy and intuitive. So that's awesome that it came off that way.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So, we've seen a demo of the product. Can you give us a little insight into like what's next, the product vision, where you ultimately see it evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are really focused on serving designers and brand designers specifically. We think that's one of the best applications for this technology, and it's an area that we're really passionate about. So, one of the big areas that I think, one of the big opportunities is to allow people to generate images that have products or characters or logos from their specific brand and their specific company in the images. So right now, I think Visual Electric is a really great stock photography replacement, or it's a good replacement for generating, illustration sets and that kind of thing. But um, it's not really good at generating product imagery, and we know that that's a really big use case. So one of the things that we're working on now and we're aiming to launch before the end of the year is the ability to train custom models either on a product, a style, a logo, or a character, and then you'll be able to share those with your team and then use them to generate new images. So I think that's going to be a really big deal. And then the other thing we're working on is making the product even more accessible to a wider audience. So that means being able to generate images outside of the canvas, which we know for some customers can be challenging, which also opens up the ability to generate on mobile, and that's something that we've heard that people really want. So we're working on a mobile view and also a mobile app as well.
Amazing. That's all really exciting. Also, I have to say, I'm very impressed as well with the text generation, because that is something that I've noticed is still really, really, I think, challenging in a lot of these types of apps, and yours does it quite successfully, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really good at generating text. It does take a few tries sometimes to get it to work right. But one thing I just want to call out is that I didn't go through a lot of the tools in the sidebar because they're actually still using our older generation model, and so the results are not nearly as good. We are working on migrating all of those tools to our new model, so that includes things like in painting or retouching. Which would be a really great way for fixing those smaller mistakes with an image. And we're gonna have those, out in the next few weeks.
Awesome. That's super exciting as well. Cool. So, is there anything that you wanted to share? I know that you had like a discount code for folks that were here in this presentation. If you want to throw that in the chat, you definitely can, or wherever
Yeah,
you'd like to share
for sure. Yeah, the code is Design Lab. I just put it in the chat, and this is $20 off, which is a free month of our standard plan, and it's good for any first-time customers. So if you want to come in and you can generate 20 images for free. Anyone can do that every month, and then you can use that code to get an extra 500 fast generations for the first month.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Colin. That's awesome. I'm sure a lot of folks here will be taking you up on that. Absolutely.
And
Um,
I just want to mention it does cap at 100 uses, so first come, first serve on that.
grab your codes, folks. And as a reminder to everyone who came out and maybe came a little bit late, if anyone is interested in getting involved in a Design Lab course, we are also offering $100 off for participants in this talk, utilizing that code off of any of our courses. Cool. So we have quite a lot in the Q&A. So I'm going to field questions to you, Colin, if that's cool.
Yeah, please.
Cool. So Katriana asks, if you choose the fastest speed, can you go back later and make it high quality?
I wish we could. That is definitely what I think the ideal user experience would be, right? You can work really quickly, explore ideas, and when you find something that you like, you can then generate sort of a higher quality version of that. Unfortunately, that's not how the technology works. They're actually different models. The reason that it generates images faster is because it's a smaller model and it has fewer parameters. And so um, we are working on a new upscaler, which will allow you to sort of take an image and generate a higher resolution version of it. We have an upscale in the product today, but it's, like I mentioned before, using our older model. So with our new upscaler, we're hoping that we will be able to sort of take the lower quality images and make higher quality, higher resolution versions of them. But yeah, the unfortunately right now you have to sort of regenerate the whole image if you want to use the higher quality setting.
Cool, thank you. So Paul says, I've been using Visual Electric for about a year. I love it. One of my favorite features is the ability to develop your own style. After trying many times, I find it difficult to get it just right. Any high-level tips?
Well, Paul, thanks for being a Visual Electric user. I'm glad you've been liking it. I would say that the best way to create a style is to use the Create Style button. So if you drag an image onto your canvas, you can see in the bottom right corner, there's a Create Style button in the sidebar. And we actually just changed the prompt that we're using to sort of auto-populate the fields for you. So I do think it works a lot better now with our new model. But having created, 55 styles in our product, I can tell you that there is no sort of shortcut. It just requires a lot of iteration and trying different words. And sometimes you have to explain things to the model in multiple ways. Um, that's one thing I've learned is the model is trained on a bunch of language tokens, and you never know which token is sort of going to activate the part of the model that's going to give you the results that you want. So try explaining things different ways. The other tip, I guess, is put the most important words in your prompt first. The model does read the words in order, and so the words the beginning of the prompt are weighted more heavily than the words at the end. But yeah, if you have any specific questions, please reach out. I'm always happy to sort of help create a custom style with you.
That's awesome. So Andrew was wondering, do the images generated have any metadata or indicator they were made with AI?
Yes, that's a great question. So there is actually a invisible watermark on every image that is undetectable to the human eye, but can be put through a process to sort of determine if the image was AI generated or not.
Cool. Um, so as a designer using images from Visual Electric in my projects, what do I need to do to ensure I'm following guidelines for image use? Are there specific steps I should take to give proper credit or secure permission, both now and in the future?
Yeah, great question. So if you are on the standard plan, we grant you a personal use license for every image that you create. If you would like to use the image in a commercial way, then you can upgrade to the Pro or Ultra tier, and that includes a royalty-free commercial license. There's no attribution required, um, and uh, and that is also retroactive. So if you generate an image on the standard plan and you decided later that you'd like to use it in a commercial way, just upgrade to Pro, and then that license will be applied to all previously generated images. And that license will be in perpetuity as well. So you don't need to maintain that license in the future in order to be able to use those images.
Cool. That's awesome. What are the things you wished you knew before you became a founder? Advice, please.
Oh man, so many things. I would say one of the biggest learning curves for me was fundraising. Fundraising is a art and a science, and I could probably fill a whole hour just talking about all the things I've learned about that. I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is um, to be in control of your own fundraising process. I think as a new founder and um, somebody who is sort of learning how to do this for the first time, I had a lot of people who were reaching out and introducing themselves, and I think I kind of got swept up in that a little bit and let these inbound requests kind of determine the fundraising journey that I ended up going on. Um, and what happened is I didn't run as competitive of a process as I could have. I didn't sort of evaluate as many options. So I would say if you are thinking about starting a venture-backed company and you want to raise money, um, it's okay to tell investors that you're not fundraising yet. And it's in a weird way, I think that will actually make them more interested in wanting to invest in you. But raise on your terms. Wait until you're ready to raise. Know exactly how much you want to raise. And when you do raise, go and talk to as many investors as you can, and really sort of be in charge of your own process.
Awesome. So changing gears a little bit, are there any situations you can think of in which it could be considered unethical to use a tool like Visual Electric for AI, generation?
Yeah, I mean, this is the big question around this technology, and I recognize that different people feel differently about this, and I don't think we have a sort of consensus answer to this question. I would say, obviously, as a founder of an AI company, like I am uh, very supportive of the technology. I think more creativity, more accessibility around creativity is a net benefit to the world. I also recognize that if you're somebody who makes a living, doing something that an AI can now do, it seems like it's possible it could do in the future, that's really scary. And so um, I am sort of sensitive to that as well. Um, but I think in general, what AI has allowed is for more people to express themselves and to take part in the creative process. And I think if you look back at history and you see when new technologies were invented, for example, when the camera was invented, painters were really anxious about this, and they saw it as a threat to their business because at that time, painters were doing a lot of very realistic portraiture, and before the camera existed, that was the only way to get a sort of realistic portrait created. And what ended up happening is it allowed painting to become many other things. It didn't have to be realistic anymore. And we got this sort of explosion of artistic movements like cubism and pointillism and abstract expressionism, and sort of freed the painter from being a camera. And so I don't necessarily see it as a zero-sum game. And I think more creative expression in the world is something I'm excited to sort of help.
Yeah, I think that's a really great answer. Very thoughtful. We probably have time for one more question before we wrap up. So McKenna would like to know, how much did you know about the technical side of AI before starting Visual Electric?
Zero. I was really completely ignorant of how machine learning worked and how all this technology worked. So yeah, I've had to kind of educate myself and learn from other smart people who understand this technology. I would say that, um, you know, today I don't claim to be a machine learning expert. I think I have uh, a deep enough understanding of how the technology works to design the sort of product experience around it. But my co-founder, Adam, is a machine learning engineer, and he really is the sort of domain expert at our company. And he and I, have wonderful collaborations around how the product should be designed based on how the technology works. And then I'm constantly learning new things, and asking him questions about things. So that's been one of the most fun parts of building this company, is getting to learn about how this technology works. But I certainly don't claim to be an expert. So
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Colin. This was a really interesting, insightful talk. I really just want to reiterate that I'm really pretty blown away by your technology. I'm around this stuff all day, every day, and I think you have a really, really amazing product. So thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to come here, share it with us, do a demo, and chat with some of our community.
absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, please follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and reach out. I am very responsive to people. If you have questions, email us. If you sign up for a paid account, you'll have a little chat bot in the corner of the app that just goes straight to my inbox. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to meet you and talk to you.
Amazing. Thank you. And everyone, don't forget about Colin's discount code that I've just stuck in the chat. It is Design Lab, to get to use his product for a discounted rate for a little bit. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It was wonderful to have you all join us. Thank you again, Colin. You were wonderful to have today in our community. And yeah, we look forward to seeing everyone in Visual Electric and hopefully at Design Lab again. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.